After a court ruled that robocalls were used to commit fraud and attempt voter suppression in the last federal election, today the CRTC announced it has also taken aim at robocalls, not for fraud, but for failing to follow clear rules on identifying who paid for them. And it slapped unprecedented fines on MPs, political parties, and a telemarketing company, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. The CBC's Terry Malefsky has that story. Terry.
Well, Wendy, it's a common complaint about robocalls. Why doesn't the CRTC do something? It is the telecommunications regulator. It has rules banning anonymous or deceptive calls. Well, it turns out the CRTC is doing something.
Your poll location has been changed.
Those fraudulent calls in Guelph during the last election are still the subject of a criminal case. But the CRTC has its own enforcement powers, and today it announced a long list of fines for robocalls which failed to properly identify who paid for them. Rack 9, the calling company made famous by the Guelph case, is paying a $60,000 fine. Rack 9 worked for the Conservatives in the last election. Then there's the Wild Rose Party in Alberta, fined $90,000 for the same offence. Ditto the Conservative Party of Ontario, fined $85,000. The Federal Conservative Party is fined $78,000. That was for calls about boundary changes in Saskatchewan, which the party at first denied making. The federal NDP was fined $40,000 for calls in Quebec. Conservative MP Blake Richards was fined $14,000, and Liberal Marc Garneau was fined $2,500 for calls in his leadership campaign.
I'm proud that once again the Liberal Party continues to take responsibility for any errors it makes, rather than spin and avoid and dodge the way the Conservatives do anytime there's a question of responsibility.
There was one mistake made a while back. We didn't fight it, we just admitted it straight up. We've been fined for having, if I understand correctly, the failure had been to mention that it was the party. Fine's going to be paid, we're going to move on, we're going to make sure it never happens again.
Le CRTC a clarifié les règles.
The Conservatives, too, said they're paying up and moving on. A party statement said, "We appreciate that the CRTC is clarifying rules for all federal political parties. We will be paying the fine today."
However, the Conservatives only paid up after the CRTC announced that it was the only party holding out. And it is the Conservatives and their calling companies who will pay the lion's share of these fines. But all parties have been caught breaking the rules, which may explain why the storm of outrage in Parliament was, well, there wasn't one. Wendy.
Thanks so much, Terry. Terry Malefsky.